Morning Internet, and welcome back to another thrill-packed video. Today, instead of the usual videos about my trail walking, cycling, visa problems, and other stuff that I do, the monuments, I'm going to take a look at something that I've noticed is a problem with people that make videos, and that is how they deal with the Final Cut Pro library, event, and project paradigm. I have some ideas on how to solve that, and I hope you'll stay tuned and take a look at them. So turn off the TV, call your friends and neighbors. This is going to be a good one. All right, before I start, I have to tell you that I am not a Final Cut expert, but I have used the app a lot. And because of that, I've learned a thing or two about how to use the app efficiently and, I think, for good result. This video is not about how to create libraries in Final Cut. There are literally hundreds of videos on YouTube that will help you do that. This video is about how to think about libraries. And when you think about them in a certain way, you will be able to use them much more effectively without taking up all the space on your hard drive and still getting good results. Apple introduced the library model in 2013 with the release of Final Cut Pro 10. Since then, many users have had a very steep learning curve about what the library, event, and project model was all about. I'm going to give you 3 tips in the way to think about the library model that will help you work with Final Cut Pro in a much more efficient manner. My first tip is to create libraries for relatively small and specific topics. This will make everything much easier to manage. Final Cut libraries have a tendency to take up way too much space. This is because video files are gigantic by nature and because users try to cram way too much into a library and use it as an archive of family, work, hobby clips. Eventually the library just balloons out of all proportion and takes up a lot of space on your hard drive and slows down your computer, making Final Cut Pro almost impossible to use. Instead of a family library that includes everything from junior's first steps through graduations, weddings, vacations, parties, you get the idea. The better idea would be to narrow it down into specific topics or specific libraries for each one of those occasions. For example, you could have a library for a family camping trip. The library would include not only the video clips you record, but audio files like wind blowing through the trees, water running in a brook when you go fishing, sound effects, music, still photos. The point is that everything, every kind of media that you think is going to be needed to produce a video of your family camping trip, all of those things go into the library. Most of them will be video clips that you record with a video camera or your phone or something like that. But some of them come directly from Final Cut itself, such as sound effects. Audio recordings are something that you could record with an audio recorder, your phone, or you could even use your camera if you wanted to get sound of the water running in the brook, for example. Just turn on your camera and hold it near the water. Now, you're technically making a video, but in Final Cut you can separate audio and video and just use the audio if you wanted it, the sound of the river. You don't have to use the video. But the idea is that every media kind that is going to go into your final project should be in the library. My second tip is don't fret over what an event is. Part of the Final Cut model is you have libraries, then you have events, and then you have projects. And a lot of people get confused because that seems like a hierarchy of ideas, but it really isn't. The library is a container, and the events are just folders within that container. You can name your events if you want to, but if you don't name them, Final Cut is going to name them after the date that the video clips were recorded. So the name of the events, although they can help you organize things in the library, they're not really necessary to using Final Cut effectively. If you're making a video of your family camping trip, you might be gone for 3 days, 4 days, something like that. If you load up your video clips from each day, you're going to have 4 events with the date of the recordings as names for the events. This is fine. If you wanted to name an event fishing trip or cooking dinner, you could do it that way if you wanted to, and then just arrange your video clips in those events. But most of the time, if you're just starting off using Final Cut Pro, you don't really have to concern yourself too much with how events are named. No matter how you do it, whether you name your events or not, as long as all the material in the events is in your library, it doesn't matter which event the stuff is in or what you call the event. All of that material is in the library and available to use in your final projects. My third and final tip is to think of each project as a finished video. Lots of people get concerned, or I should say confused, about what a project is. It's easier, if you're just starting off with Final Cut, to think of a project as a video that you're going to produce and publish on YouTube or send to your uncle or something like that. Thinking of a project in any other way is just going to confuse you. The video that you produce from your library is the driving force behind the entire operation. You're not going to create a library in the first place if you don't have an idea of what the finished videos are going to be about, what they might look like, the kind of clips that you need to put into them, into the library to get that final project. All of that stuff comes from the idea that I'm going to produce a video about something. If we use our family camping trip, I'm going to produce a video about the camping trip or parts of it. For example, with the camping trip, I might have one video at the end of the entire thing. Or I may produce several videos, driving to the campsite, going fishing, cooking dinner, hiking through the woods. All of those could be separate videos if you had enough material in your library to do that. Or you could just make one video and be done with it. The idea, though, is that the library contains the events that go into producing the video. So the biggest tip of all, and I didn't even number this one, but the biggest tip of all is to come up with the idea for the video first. That will drive everything else, and that will keep the focus or the scope of your library to a manageable size. Okay, finally, after you've produced all your videos from the library that you can, the question comes up, what do you do with the library? And no matter how careful you are of keeping your library to a specific topic and creating libraries as you go for different kinds of topics or different kinds of projects, you're eventually going to end up with a hard drive that's getting clogged up with libraries. And that's when you want to take a look at those videos all over YouTube about how to archive Final Cut material onto external hard drives. You can't keep all your videos on your computer. Your hard drive will fill up. Now, there is another strategy. Archiving seems to be the driving force on YouTube because people seem to think that when they make a video, that everything they do is valuable video recording that they have to keep. I would say that unless you're video recording something that is ridiculously valuable to you, something with your family, or if you walk on the moon, you would hang on to those kinds of video recordings. But most of the stuff you take with a video camera is the same kind of thing you take with a regular camera. They're not really good pictures, And once you produce the video, the project, the video is published on Facebook, YouTube, or sent to your uncle somewhere, the stuff that's left over in the library no longer has any value. If it does, by all means save it. But let's be reasonable. Once the video is published, chances are 99% you are not going to go back and revisit those clips. They're useless. They're just taking up space. My philosophy when I make a video is once I'm done, once the video or videos are published from the library itself and everything in it gets deleted. I don't need it anymore. The next video I make is a brand new library. This video, for example, is a single library. And when this video is published, in fact, if you're looking at this video now, you know that the library that I used in Final Cut Pro to make this video no longer exists. So instead of sending or saving your video material in some archive that's eventually going to get big and expensive, my philosophy is produce the video, delete the library. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.